This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and finally it's here, the BlackBerry Priv. This is a BlackBerry phone that runs Android 5.1.1, Lollipop to be specific, Marshmallow next year sometime coming at you. So, interesting idea, isn't it? And maybe this is something that BlackBerry really, or RIM as they're formerly known, should have done about 2 years ago when they first started bleeding market share heavily, and they wanted to wean people over to, say, Android. Well, they could have done it with this product. Now it might be a little too late because there's a lot of creature comforts in this phone that are great for BlackBerry aficionados, but I'm afraid that many of them have already left because last quarter BlackBerry didn't even sell 1 million phones. I think it was 800,000, which is kind of sad. It looks like your average slab phone, but it wouldn't be a BlackBerry unless it did something special, which is, ta-da, the hardware keyboard. Now, again, for people switching over from BlackBerry phones, I think that this will be a comforting thing. It's a pleasant little keyboard, but for those who have already made the switch a while ago, at this point, you're probably pretty good at an on-screen keyboard. I'm not sure if this is going to be something that you really want. It's not the first time we've seen this either. Those of you who have been watching these products for quite some time might remember when Dell made the Venue phone. That was actually a phone with the same up and down slider design with a little keyboard at the bottom. Anyway, we're going to look at it now. So this is the BlackBerry Priv, and first, right front and center, we have the keyboard here, which you can actually move along here and use that as something of a D-pad. It's not the most precise thing in the world, though. It does have little shaped, sculpted mini keys, which is really pretty cool, and remember those waterfall-shaped keys from the BlackBerries of old. It is, however, because it's a narrow phone, relatively speaking, pretty teeny. It's nice and clicky and tactile, not super duper clicky, but it's not bad, but I find it's kind of small. If you're a guy with big hands or if you're a woman with long fingers like me, you might find it a little bit cramped. All your BlackBerry shortcuts are here. You'd hit the double space bar to add a period, for example. Perfectly usable, perfectly functional. I'm just not sure how many people actually still want the hardware keyboard. The slider mechanism, it just feels nice. You just want to keep doing it because it's really nicely made. The whole phone is really nicely made. If Priv stands for privacy and for privilege, that would be a little kind of classist, elitist, obnoxious to say it stands for privilege, but I think there is an intimation there. It certainly is something that feels like a high-end piece. The curved glass here, unlike the Galaxy S6 Edge right there, and they do things with it. We'll talk about that too. The nice trim rings along here. The carbon fiber back on this just feels delicious. It's very grippy. It's really nice. It looks pretty premium too. The lines on the phone, nice and modern. That's your power button on this side right there. Good stuff. Your SIM card slot takes a nano SIM card right there. You have an SD card slot too. You can use a pokey tool to open those up. Microphone is right there. Volume controls right here, and this is supposed to be your quick silence button. It really isn't. It just brings up there it is, right there. So it really isn't a quick one-touch to anything, and it's not assignable as far as I've found. Here's your standard USB, micro USB 2.0 port. A rubbery feel here again, headphone jack, and this is the speaker grill for the front-firing speaker. So hardware-wise, it's really very nice. It feels like a quality piece. It feels well put together. The slider works beautifully. It's nice enough looking. It's different enough looking. You know, despite the fact that it's curved glass like the Galaxy S6 Edge, it doesn't at all look like Galaxy derivative. It looks like its own thing. BlackBerry really has their own unique design language, and they've got it here. Now, this is not a cheap phone. This sells for $699. You can get it unlocked direct from BlackBerry GSM or from AT&T. Then we have the AT&T model, and it sells for $739. AT&T just has a way of always marking up phones a little bit. That is what it is. If you're still going for the old-fashioned 2-year contract, that is $249, and of course there's a variety of monthly payment plans these days. There's also going to be one coming to Verizon, though Verizon hasn't actually given a specific date yet. The display is pleasing enough. It's an IPS display, 5.4 inches, and it's a QHD resolution, so it's 2560 by 1440, so nice and sharp, high resolution. Snapdragon 808 hexa-core CPU. That's the same CPU used in the LG G4, 1.8 gigahertz, right under the Snapdragon 810, which is in the HTC One, M9, and a couple of other high-end phones too. The 808 runs a little bit cooler, which is nice, although this one does get pretty toasty on the back. Right around here you'll feel it. I don't know if it's because it's thin, and it just transfers heat. Gets a little toastier than we expected. For our US model, 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of internal storage. Again, you have the micro SD card slot to expand that. Android Lollipop 5.1.1 on this phone. Marshmallow coming sometime in 2016. Because BlackBerry customized the OS, and particularly the security and privacy things, some of it's going to be redundant with Marshmallow, like the boot kind of thing, where in Marshmallow you've got some boot security where you have to enter a PIN code before you can even unlock the phone, or your fingerprint if you have a fingerprint scanner on it. Anyway, enough customization's been done on here that it's going to take them some time to get with the program. LTE 4G, dual band Wi-Fi AC, NFC, Bluetooth, all the usual stuff, GPS with GLONASS. Now, despite the customizations, it looks like pretty clean Android, doesn't it? It is pretty clean Android. Your app drawer is right there. Got apps, widgets, shortcuts. They've chosen to go with that designation right there. What they've done is they've customized the icons a little bit, but they've put some BlackBerry-ness in it. The asterisk. See, there's a little asterisk right here. If you have a calendar event coming up, you get the little asterisk on the calendar icon. So it's just like the BlackBerry devices running BlackBerry OS. And that can be comforting if you're switching over. Now, like I said, I think the challenge is that a lot of people have jumped ship a couple of years ago. So if you have nostalgia for the way BlackBerry did things, well, then you can feel good. We have the flashing LED, which is another BlackBerry thing. We have Blackberry Hub on here, which I have a love and hate relationship with, because if you put a lot of accounts into it, you've got your email, you've got your Twitter, you've got your Facebook, you've got all this stuff. It's just a mishmash of so much stuff in one place that it actually becomes a little hard to manage pretty quickly. Now, if you swipe down here, you'll see your appointments. You got the little calendar asterisk thing. Why it's telling me about something that was very pleasant, but in the past, I'm not really sure. Your standard Android controls are here as well, and you can get to settings right there, and it all looks like pretty much stock Android. Things change a little bit. If you press and hold here, you don't just have Google now, you have your shortcut right here to BlackBerry Hub and also to BlackBerry's universal search. So if you swipe over to BlackBerry Hub, which I won't do right now because there's way too much information there that, sorry folks, I just don't really want to share with you. You see your received phone calls, your missed phone calls, your tweets, your Facebook mentions, your email stuff, all of that. No LinkedIn though, kind of odd there. Anyway, it's all there in one place, and BlackBerry Search, of course, is available as well. Now they add in a couple of security-minded things. The first is Bootloader Check. If it's not a genuine BlackBerry OS that's going to load, it will complain. It will tell you. It will say no. So it's got a bootloader protector, basically. Now, whether you like that or not depends on how much you're into hacking phones. Probably people who buy BlackBerries are not so into hacking their phones. It's not like Samsung, where everybody hates Knox because Knox kind of tries to get in the way of you putting custom ROMs on there and all that sort of thing. We also have something called Detect. Detect, that's by BlackBerry there. So this tells you about the security status of your device. And you can see several criteria it uses here. Whether or not you've set up a screen lock, that will bring down your meter. Ooh, big time right there if you don't have a screen lock set up. Apps and privacy settings, your data encryption, developer options here as well available. Factory reset protection. It's happy with my device hardware, my operating system integrity, and so on, and trusted apps as well. So a little nod to security there, again, something that BlackBerry is pretty good at, known for. So there you have it. There are third-party programs that do a lot of the same thing in terms of looking at app permissions, whether you've got security turned on your phone, a PIN or something like that. Or it's not the only one out there, but as a BlackBerry solution, you can pretty well trust it, and they do a good job of it. All the standard Google apps are on board there as well, and it will remind you that you can do all sorts of nifty things like that. And just slide across, you can see all your widgets that are available, shortcuts, all that sort of thing. So a little bit BlackBerry goodness right there. Of course, BlackBerry Messenger is available on board, and those are the things that kind of give it its BlackBerry-ness. One last neat thing, and again, Samsung has done this too on their curved screen Galaxies. You can swipe in right here, and then you can switch between a variety of things. You've got your tasks, you've got your favorite contacts right there, you've got reminders. So that's a neat thing that you can do by swiping in on the side. When you plug it in and charge it, really, it looks kind of cool, but it goes from a red to a green line as it gets closer to a full charge. So it starts at the bottom and it wraps around just on the edge screen right here, and you'll see your green line filling up, and it'll tell you when it's 100% full. So there's the excitement of the curved glass display. Now, in terms of performance, it feels pretty fluid. Some people have complained about some lags and slowdowns. Overall, it's been fairly responsive. Once in a while, I see a little bit of a hiccup, but perhaps AT&T, the latest ROM version on this, is a little bit snappier, and it benchmarks pretty much like you'd expect from a Snapdragon 808, which again is used on phones like the LG G4. It's no slouch. It's not the highest end possible CPU, but it's certainly powerful enough for most people and powerful enough to make gaming, which is pretty demanding, very enjoyable. Quadrant, it scored 19,738, a little bit below the low 20,000s that we would see for an 808, but that's not different enough to really go, oh. Antutu, 45,626. Geekbench 3, 1197 single core, 3478 multi-core. So all in all, pretty good performance. Again, 3 gigs of RAM in here, 32 gigs of storage. It's fine for playing games. I haven't had it slow down. I haven't had it do anything unexpectedly weird. And the performance may come at a little bit of a price. It has a 3140 milliamp battery that is sealed inside, like most phones these days. There's no way to get at that battery. That's a pretty hefty capacity battery, especially for a 5.4-inch display these days. That's not even the hugest among displays, is it? And the Snapdragon 808 should be a little more power frugal. Battery life has not been so good on this, sad to say. Now, maybe that will improve with OS and firmware updates in the future, but with light to medium use, it makes it to the end of the day. That's light to medium use. Just a couple of phone calls, surfing a couple of websites, watch a short YouTube video, that sort of stuff. I'm not talking about playing any games, streaming videos, streaming music in the background for hours, anything like that. Then it won't even make it through the day. That's the way it's been rolling for us. So battery life not so super duper. Surprising with the Snapdragon 808, the battery life's not so great, and the fact that it gets pretty warm over here. It gets kind of Snapdragon 810 warm there on the back side. Not going to burn you or anything like that, but you know, it's toasty in the winter. It's nice. It's a hand warmer. While we're looking at the back of the phone, 18 megapixel camera with a Schneider Kreuznach lens, which is actually a pretty good lens company right there. Two-tone LED flash. It's a fast lens as well. Sounds promising, so let's take a look at the camera application and see. So you've got nice features over here. You've got your auto HDR, you've got your timer, you've got aspect ratio, flash control, all that sort of thing. And I'm taking a picture of wood grain. It's pretty good now. You can see the focus hunting back and forth where it tries to keep things in focus. The challenge is here is that often it's a bit slow. Actually, if you're running around outside with this trying to take pictures, it can hunt a bit to actually get focus. And sometimes it just inexplicably gets a little bit slow. It can shoot 4K video at 30 frames per second. Not bad video. The problem with this camera has been so far that the exposure is sometimes off. You just never know what's going to happen with it, with the color balance and with the exposure. Sometimes it does white out. Sometimes it goes cool. So here's a picture that I took indoors of our cat. And both of these, taken within seconds of each other, both of these using the flash. Very cool color bias there. He refused to look at the camera, so what can you do? There's actually a decent amount of detail in the fur. It's not as bad as it looks. I know it's not the most exciting picture. Now look at this picture. All warm colors, right? The cat didn't change colors in the space of 2 seconds. So it's a little bit inconsistent. By the way, this is a warmer version of our cat. Somewhere in between would be actually the cat. And you can see the white out there thanks to the flash in part. So his fur is whiting out. Now you can forgive it with the flash in a kind of dark place, but it's not a bad camera. It's a pretty decent camera. It's just not like really a great camera. And given the hardware specs on this, we had hoped for more. There's a 2 megapixel camera up front for your selfies and your video chats. And like most front 2 megapixel cameras, it's fine. It's okay. It's not awesome, but it gets the job done. So on the one hand, I'm really thrilled to see BlackBerry jump into the game to just not give up, given how low their device sales have been. And to make an Android device that's this attractive looking, this well made, is pretty neat. And the hardware keyboard option, we'll just see how many people really still want that nice slide out keyboard right there. But it's a nice device. The curved glass is kind of cool. We have a high density display, 504 ppi. It ticks a lot of the right boxes in terms of hardware. It just doesn't do anything that's a whole lot more special than a lot of other devices. Unless, again, you love Blackberry Hub, you like those little Blackberry touches, like the little calendar that has the asterisk, your BBM that lets you know what's going on in terms of how many messages you have, the extra attention paid to security and privacy through apps, some of which could be replicated in third-party, others which, like the boot OS level protection, couldn't be. So, yeah, it's a nice phone. I'm just not sure that this is going to be what saves BlackBerry and helps them ship millions of devices in the next quarter. But I look forward to what they're going to try next, and this is certainly a promising start and a nice piece of quality hardware. So that's the BlackBerry Priv. It's actually a very likable piece of hardware. It is well made. It is attractive. I'm a sucker for the soft touch carbon fiber thing going on here. This hardware keyboard down here, I admit I'm one of those people who has moved on, and I did miss them years ago, but now if it was bigger, if it was like the BlackBerry Passport keyboard, I think I'd love it a lot more. I have long fingers, and it's a little bit small for me, but it's a stylish, attractive-looking phone. It has a lot of nice BlackBerry customizations that bring back memories, like I said, like the little asterisks that appear on your calendar icon when you have a message. The attention to detail in terms of privacy and security, having a secure boot OS. Those who like custom ROMs and hacking might not like that so much, but it can be heartening to those who actually don't want to do those things to their phone. They just don't want to think their phone's been hacked. The back camera, really capable hardware. They just need to get the software moving in the right direction. It's a little bit laggy and exposure can be a little bit off, but it's not terrible either, honestly. Front keyboard is adequate. They make use of the side screen in a nice way with the little slide on there to get to your tasks. And of course there's Blackberry Hub, which for some of you is a really neat thing. I find it's kind of information overload if you have a lot of different social media sources that you're plugging into it. But overall, it's a nice piece of hardware. For $700, oh, there's a lot of high-end competition at that price point. If you like what the BlackBerry Priv brings to the table, well, then it's the phone for you. But otherwise, I'm not sure it's going to steal people away from the high-end Samsungs, the iPhone, the LG V10, even. A lot of nice phones are on the market right now. So pretty much, if you're a sucker for the BlackBerry experience, if you really like that hardware keyboard, those would be the big selling points. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review and hit that like button.